Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. It's Saturday morning. You know what time it is. It's time for the At Home Show. Hey, we're here, and we're coming to you alive, as the deep-voiced man said, from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. That's 0.9 miles, 1.2 clicks north of Briley Parkway at exit 19. Good morning, David Bates.
Good morning, Josh. And
we need to get right to the weather.
Orange memo. Yeah,
yes, with
today.
the proper number. Okay, with the proper number. Okay.
Well, we'll get around to talking about that a little bit later. Let's first talk about the weather. And we've got some that's. I'm going to go straight over here to the radar first.
Okay, you do that, David.
That tells a story that needs to be told right there. We've got a frontal line moving across the area. Looks like it will be here, I'm guessing, within the next hour and a half or so. So within a short amount of time, when we get off the air, it will perhaps either already be here or be right on the verge of it. So the heaviest part of the precipitation well to our south, down in upper Mississippi currently. And it looks like the heavier precipitation is just east of Jackson right now. But we will get some rain out of this. Of course, we still need the rain.
Yes, we do.
And we should get some rain in exchange for all the wind that we've had recently. It's been really windy. It's a difficult time to irrigate plants when you have them in containers like we do here at Bates Nursery. But be mindful that that is coming up here within the next hour or so. Today, we do have those thunderstorms. It's saying right now maybe 0.02 of an inch. That's probably about right in our area. Will likely be more than that as you go further south. A high of 70 degrees today, 53 degrees overnight. Tomorrow, partly cloudy in the morning, clearing by afternoon, only a slight chance of rain, and that will be in the very early morning hours. 75 for the high, 57 low. We've got really mild temperatures all the way through Thursday with pleasantly warm, sunny conditions, and then we begin to have a seasonable change. On Friday, 57 degrees with a few showers, all the way down to freezing. So, should be no stranger, and we've got freezing temperatures. Looks like consecutive nights thereafter. High temperature Saturday and Sunday next weekend, only in the upper 40s. So enjoy this perhaps last little respite of fall weather. We're going to have a change of weather along with the falling back of the clock, which will occur at 2 a.m. this morning. And so don't be caught unaware. Perhaps we're down possibly to the last time that we will be falling back.
What?
Well, we could be going on to daylight time and staying on daylight time after next year. So,
what if it's on daylight time? What happens when it gets dark?
Well, it won't be daylight when it's dark, that's for sure.
Well,
and it doesn't actually say.
So we're not going to have time when it's dark? It's only going to be daylight when we have time?
It'll only be daylight when the sun is up, Josh, which is really the way it currently is. We just won't be messing with the clock, changing it backwards and forwards all the time because it's really confusing. It serves no purpose.
Boy,
so
isn't it confusing.
I say pick a time zone and stay with it.
I like the mountain time zone myself.
Well, mountain time zone is kind of that middle ground between Pacific and Central.
Yes.
So, mountain time zone is not bad.
We have issued the Brass Monkey Storm team has issued a breaking wind alert for Middle Tennessee until notice.
Let's go take a quick look again at that breaking wind that's likely to be approaching with this frontal system here, and there will be some wind coming with that. So just be prepared. If you've got trash cans that are out with lids, all those things tend to get scattered and that kind of thing. So just
trees around a nursery.
All we can do is wait for the wind to stop blowing, and then we stand things back up before we irrigate. But we'll probably get them stood up once this passes. And unfortunately for us, the rainfall comes after the wind. So the wind comes through, it blows everything that's the most dry and susceptible over, then it rains, and then those things still need water. So we have to stand them up and then irrigate. But we have talked about that enough. We do have one more event that you and I are both commemorating here this morning. We would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that the number one versus number two, and at the end of the day, there will be just one number one, and we hope it's the guys in orange, obviously. University of Tennessee and University of Georgia play today. And would that kickoff time, Josh, is
later?
I'm saying it's about, is it 1:30?
I honestly don't know what the game time is.
3:30?
3:30?
Yep,
well, there is actually a 3:30 start. It could be.
I don't think it's 3:30.
Well, what we hope for as the at-home show is that since the Volunteers are going down to to Athens, Georgia,
the devil went down to Georgia. Is that the way we're going to be portrayed?
No, they actually call that playing between the hedges down there. We would need for the Volunteers to go down and trim the hedges.
I got you. All right. Well, maybe they will. Well, we'll call in some assistance on that with our rest of our cast members here. By the way, Tyler Blankenship, you see right there, he's being very quiet this morning, but good morning,
to see
Tyler.
you. Oh, I'm bearing the weight of the world in this show.
We welcome in Caroline Gant, Austin Lowen. Welcome, guys. And I know that there's much going on. This beautiful weather really keeps people out and about, and Austin has been very involved in finalizing our work on our new covered facility that connects the front area, the greenhouse where Caroline spends much of her time, with the greenhouse perennial area. And so we have that all connected. So on a day like today, where rainfall is almost certain, very likely, at least for part of it, you can come in and shop and not be out in the rain.
It's been really nice as it's rained out here this past week, just a little bit, just to be able to shop under cover. It's just been really, really nice. 7 new greenhouses with 2 covers on each of them, and 150 foot long. Just a really, really nice space to be able to shop without being in the rain. So it's been a lot of work. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's coming along.
You've almost got done with all of the rooftops, right? You still got a little to do on the very smallest structures, but we're down to the walls after that, which are quite a bit easier to deal with than climbing up on top. Not to say much less dangerous. It's you have to be patient, and you have to. It takes time, so I'm grateful to have the most of that behind us, and hopefully we can get the last little bit done here on top, and then all we have left to do is get our fans wired in and get the rest of the walls up. So it looks like we're right on schedule with the change of the weather coming up a week away. And so that's all a good thing. So what else is going on in the world of horticulture, according to Austin Lowen? I know we haven't been doing our What's in Bloom segment for a little bit because it's not the time of year when you see a whole lot of things in bloom other than pansies and violas. And
boy, I saw something yesterday that absolutely stunned me and took my attention.
I know what it is.
I do too.
Well, being housed, I have contacts at the nursery. I can ask when I don't know what something is. So I sent out an alert yesterday, and Austin was kind enough to tell me that I saw muley grass, and folks, it blowing in the wind yesterday. It was absolutely spectacular.
It's muley grass weather and time of year. And this is when people who, if you're considering it, you really need to understand that muley grass is not something that you get much out of if you just buy just one or two or three of them. You really need a bunch of them together. And there is a Hampton Inn on Dickerson Pike that's right across the street from the Lowe's store over there. That's the most incredible planting of them I have seen anywhere. It's kind of at the top of a hillside, and it's spectacular. So, it's worth taking the time to drive by there just to see the muley grass, because really soon it won't be spectacular anymore. It'll just be back to what it usually is.
Kind of,
so you don't get
When does it, again, I know that it's been, we're in the 1st of November. How long does that color show, Austin? I mean, will it have started a few weeks ago?
Yeah, it would have started probably a week or two ago, and it'll really last for probably a month. You know, it kind of depends on the weather, like everything. As it starts getting really, really cold, it'll start to dull and brown up a little bit or go tan like they typically do. But that pink color really shows a lot. And like you said, it blows in the breeze. Really, really good plant to plant in mass, like David was saying. And you really need to know pink muhly grass really needs well-drained soil. So if you have heavy clay soils, you really need to amend with some, say, pine fines or some soil conditioner, like the landscape product we sell out here. Mix that in with the dirt because they really need well-drained soil. If not, if they're sitting in that heavy clay, then you don't get a really good crop out of that. So make sure you do that. But if you do, you get a beautiful mass of pink. And I don't know if you still have that picture, Josh, but people ought to see it because it is really pretty right now.
Okay, well, I'll see if we can get Tyler over to do it. But this was in a particular, I've got a feeling that it's going to be fairly hardy and tough too, because that planting that I saw was a mass planting. Wasn't as big as what David was describing, but it is right on the old Fort parking lot in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. 8 feet from the street, and it looked like it was. It's going to have to be tough where it's at. I mean, no cover whatsoever, full sun blasting down upon it. Mm-hmm. So fairly hardy because I didn't see an irrigation system at the business that I was at.
No, and that's not even necessary either. It's really about they're plenty hardy, cold wise, hot wise, sun wise, all that good stuff. It's the down below we got to worry about. Like I was saying earlier, it's just that they really need to drain well. That's the key. If they drain well, then it's going to be a great little plant for you. If not, you're going to see some issues, and it does happen.
And you need to have enough companion planting to give something of interest when they're not in bloom, which is most of the year. Mm-hmm. And because they're not, as grasses go, they're not the most attractive foliage wise. They're not unattractive. That's another reason why you need a lot of them to really fill the space with foliage, because they're very sparse. They're very thin bladed.
That was what was a part of what it was attractive about it, though. It was just so delicate and beautiful, just floating in the breeze. And actually, I sent the video to Tyler, so hopefully we can get it up in a little bit and see what's going on.
Take a look at that grass. There is something else that's in bloom that Austin was talking about this morning while we're on
Hi, Caroline.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. What is it, Austin?
Camellia. Let's talk about camellia for a minute, okay? All right. There's a camellia society.
There is.
If that just tells you anything.
I think there's a society for everybody.
No, there's not. There's only a few.
All right.
But camellias
There's no
are
Lantana Society.
Yeah, no. But
That
there
you
is
know of.
so many bloom colors, shapes, sizes, doubles. I mean, literally, they're hybridizing camellia like you wouldn't believe. And if you don't know, camellia is a fairly large, evergreen, glossy leaf shrub. So it'll get anywhere from that 8 to 12 foot tall. They're not going to get there quickly. They're a pretty slow plant to grow. I've got 3 at my house. We need to know that camellia is not necessarily like a full sun blazing all day long type of plant. But at the same time, we also need to know that it is not a full shade type plant either. It's kind of in between. So mine gets sun from, anywhere from like 10 o'clock all the way to like 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it gets a good amount of sun during the biggest part of the day, but then it gets a break from that hot afternoon sun. And I've also got it, as another thing about camellia is that it doesn't go very much more north than where we're at here. Okay. So it'll maybe live up into Kentucky, but it doesn't go much further into that. It's like a zone 6 at best type of plant. So we need to have it kind of protected. You're not going to put it out in the yard to where it just gets like blasted with wintry winds and, really, really cold weather. I've got mine tucked in kind of in a corner of my house against a brick wall. So it really gets protected from a lot of those wintry winds, and it does great. And it's been a really pretty plant, and some of them bloom in the fall, some of them bloom in the what we call winter, which really around here is like early spring. And there's all sorts of varieties. There's whites, there's pinks, there's close to red, not true red I haven't seen, but pretty close. Caroline, you got a red one.
I got a Yuletide.
Yeah, Yuletide.
And it is blooming. I got my first bloom yesterday.
No,
really?
Interesting though. Yuletide is a sasanqua, I believe. Is that
Squeeze me?
a Japani?
It's a different species. Yeah, you're right, and it's a little bit. It's very cold hardy.
Yeah, Well, it's not as cold hardy as the the Korean cultivars that have been developed that are used, all of the fall flowering and the spring flowering, like April Remembered, I believe is the one I've got in my yard at home. So they will, when you have a severe winter, they will get some winter burn. But the discovery of these cultivars in the mountains of Korea, which is where much of the original stock came from, is how these were hybridized, and they were able to create all these great flowering plants that are also sufficiently hardy, because before the last decade or so, they were really only available in more southern area, maybe Birmingham South. So Memphis could do okay with them, but not us. So it's really great to be able to have camellias. And like you say, you got to take a little time to consider where you're putting them, because you can't just stick them out in the middle of the yard. They've got to be in a spot where they will get a little bit of protection, preferably, and not be in that blazing afternoon sun. So,
are they fragrant?
I know we got a whole bunch of questions to go today, and we don't want to talk about camellias the whole time.
Why not? There's a society.
We're already a quarter of the way through the program, and we haven't touched the question yet.
Well, let's get to a question. But I did see a picture of Austin's camellia in bloom, and it's pink and gorgeous.
It is really pretty. It's called London Town Blush.
Oh, so fancy. You are the fanciest landscape person in the whole wide world. All right, first question. Here we go. Best full sun evergreen shrubs and trees. I have a 1960s ranch painted white, and I'm in need of curb appeal.
Well, best full sun evergreen shrubs. We've got like 20 options for that. I mean, easy. And you've got an older home that's white, so obviously a deep green looks really well with that, does really well with that. Laurels come to mind as a really clean and green plant to kind of put out there. Boxwood always does well with a white home, an easy plant to grow. But seriously, y'all, I mean, you got to come out and see us and let us walk you around and show you some options. That's the great thing about Bates, is that you get to come out and we get to show you options, and you get to let us know what you like, not what we like. I like whatever I like, but I need to know what you like. And if you like it and it's going to fit in that spot, then we can certainly get you that. And that's the good thing about coming out here and shopping with us, is that you get to see, some multiple options and which ones you can use and which ones are going to work and which ones may not work. There may be something that you really, really like, and I'm just like, look,
it's not going to happen.
It ain't going to happen there. I'm sorry. We got to switch up. So, but we've got options, like I said, 20 different options for that type of scenario. So come out and see us and let us help you.
We have so much right now, so many trucks.
We really do.
We can't even fit everything.
I like the old Yews in that situation.
Yews are such a good
on either
plant.
side of the stoop.
Such a good plant. It's hardy as it gets. Once they're established, they're living forever. So, yeah, plenty of options.
They're living forever. All right. Still too warm to plant spring bulbs.
No.
Oh.
No, it's not.
Got to look.
I planted spring bulbs 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks? 3 weeks.
I planted mine, probably about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, so I went ahead and did my pansy planting like I do every year. But underneath those pansies, what do? Put tulips in, because you got to. If you don't, you're missing out. So, yeah, I've already planted mine. They haven't started to come up or anything. They're just going to sit dormant through the winter, and it's a great time to plant your bulbs. You need to do it. Get them out. We've got plenty right now. Come on and get them.
Yeah, Austin's got a
great video.
We both went there.
He's got a great video where he shows that technique of about planting bulbs under pansies, and it's a short little video. It's a really good one to watch. Go out to our Bates Nursery YouTube site. You can check it out right there, along with all of our other informational videos. We've got, I don't know how many hours of content out there, but
it's all archived, a lot, and on demand.
It is a lot. So anything you've got a question about, you probably can find an answer there. And so we're appreciative of that. And one thing about planting bulbs that you buy from us here is that our bulbs are pre-chilled. And when you buy a pre-chilled bulb, that means dormancy has been built in on the front end, so that when you put those in the ground, even if it's still not quite, doesn't seem to be quite cool enough yet, they're still going to have enough dormant time to be able to set bud properly, so that you get a very consistent flower. That's the real issue if you get them out too early. Of course, they can sprout if they haven't been pre-chilled somewhat as well. So go for it. The problem with things like planting bulbs, if you wait, you won't be able to find them. So
Yeah.
He who or she who hesitates can be lost in that department. So
We do have quite
There
a
you
bit
go.
still here at the nursery.
yeah.
But yeah, they will go fast.
Dahlias? Got dahlias over
No.
there? No dahlias.
Don't do dahlias
You
yet.
said
Summer flowering bulbs you
That's a
plant in
springtime
spring.
bulb.
Okay.
All right. Should I water my houseplants as much in the winter? So this is kind of a little bit of a loaded question because there's a lot of different ways people grow houseplants. But for me personally, I do have to start watering my leafy houseplants in the winter a little bit more because I do heat part of my house with propane. So it tends to dry the soil out in the plants a little bit more, especially if they're closer to that room because the climate in my home is so dry. So yes, I do up my watering with my leafy plants. Now, as far as my cacti go, I pretty much don't water them at all in the winter because I have brought them inside and I don't want them to grow because they're not getting as much light from up above and they'll grow a little bit weird. So you'll have to kind of feel it out depending on the plant you have, depending on how you heat your house in the winter. And also there are people who, like myself, who put their houseplants outside in the spring and summer and then bring them in the winter. And because I don't have as much light and I don't really use grow lights to supplement as much as some people do, I tend to like most of my houseplants to go dormant. So I'm trying not to promote new growth. So they're not dying or looking dead or turning into a stick like trees do that go dormant that we talk about with deciduous trees. But I'm not trying to fertilize or get them to grow. Now, if you are somebody who keeps your houseplant in year round, has grow lights, the watering will be a little bit different. But yeah, too much, too little. Is kind of a weird question, but you are going to have to change your watering patterns for the winter. And it's going to be different for your household and what kind of plant you have. But I do have a Bates Botanical Bootcamp webinar about winterizing houseplants. And we do talk about watering techniques and how to see what your plant needs and what it doesn't need. But that is a great question. And if you have more questions on that, you can come and talk to me. I love to talk about houseplants. All right. What are some attractive deer-proof shrubs to flank a driveway entrance in full sun?
Deer proof.
Let's see. That would be the plastic palm trees. We can go
Plastic palms would be great.
Yes. With lights.
Really?
With lights.
Okay.
No, I mean, there are some deer-proof ish
Ish.
shrubs. Deer don't really like boxwood all that much. Boxwood's pretty simple, pretty normal, but it's a really, really good plant. It lives. If you need something to just live, deer don't really eat boxwood very much. They also don't really like juniper. So if you wanted maybe an upright growing, there's not all juniper are upright growing. Some of them are super like outward growing, 6 to 8 feet wide.
I know that's what Ben has growing because he has deer where he lives that eats everything.
Yeah, Ben
and he
has
was like, the one thing I can plant is juniper.
Yeah, he's got it real. The deer are horrible
Can't
at his
plant
house.
anything.
And
Anything.
yucca.
Yucca,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Yucca and juniper are what he is growing currently.
All of those, which totally prefer full sun to get the best growth, and all of those will work. There's other things that'll work, and there's some things that deer will graze on a little bit, but you gotta have to be okay with that. Sometimes they'll just take like typically the newest growth.
They're just
of
pruning
things.
it for you.
They're just giving it a little tip prune. Sometimes they tighten it up for you. So I know deer are really annoying, but yeah, those are a couple options that'll live for that, and hopefully do well.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Hey, let's take a break for just a second and talk about what it takes to get things growing and keep them growing their very best. And of course, I'm talking about Earth Mix Garden Products. If you are a serious gardener, and if you're watching this program, well, maybe you're not a serious gardener. Maybe you like to have fun with it. Earth Mix Garden Products do not prohibit you from having fun. What we try to do is to keep the fun in it by making it as easy of a task as possible. We want you to be able to plant and be able to have success. And what Earth Mix Garden Products do for you is they give you all the things that Mother Nature normally provides in soils that plants actually want naturally. There are no chemical additives. There's nothing that's not 100% organic. There are actually some additional things added, such as endo and ecto mycorrhiza fungi.
Gotta
Josh,
have
I
it.
know you're about to say that, along with humic acid. And these are what nature provides. We add some extra amount of those things in there to make sure the plants are able to perform at their very highest. And when you have plants that are able to get rooted into their soils the very best, they're going to do their very best. And when you have a difficult summer like we just came out of, where dry conditions have been an issue, getting plants well rooted in is no small thing. And if you talk to Caroline about taking care of plants and watering, she's going to talk about Proganics I. The great thing about all the Earth Mix garden products is there's no peat in any of them. Coconut coir is used throughout each product that would have peat in it. Proganics I is one of those that would have a lot of peat, except that coconut coir is used instead.
That's better stuff.
And it's a lot better stuff. It's a more sustainable product.
Yep.
And you don't get fungus gnats at all. And if you've ever seen those little gnats in the house that just pester you to death, when you use Proganics I, you will not have that issue. So I invite you to check out all the great resellers of Earth Mix garden products. Just go out to Find Earth Mix at earthmix.net, click on the Find Earth Mix tab, and there you'll see the map pop up and all the locations around Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into southern Indiana, and boy, that's a way
Saudi
out.
Arabia, David?
Look, locations coming near you. They're way over here in the United States.
Yeah.
Actually, there's 2 United States on this map.
Cool.
Don't know how I did that. I'm gonna
It's
go
that
back
time
home on
change,
it 'cause
David.
yeah, that's what it is. Don't forget to fall back.
If you click the
Anyway.
yes,
There we
Progressive
go.
gardening does indeed begin at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products. And if you want to find a location nearest you, you can probably do it a lot better on your computer than I just did on that one there. So check it out. You can type in your address or just simply zoom into the location nearest you. And in addition to the location, Tyler's taking the time to also detail what each of the locations carry. Not everybody carries every product. So you can find out if they have the specific product that you're looking for. So check that out at earthmix.net. So
And the
there you
handy
go.
dandy calculator of how much you're going to need is on there as well. That's
is.
It's a
neat.
very helpful tool. And if you don't,
Absolutely.
it's at the
You don't
very
have
top
any
of the
idea.
page on the right.
Yep. There you go. So thank you for giving us a moment to discuss that and help you with your gardening efforts.
Efforts.
Now, back to the show.
Efforts.
Oh, sorry.
You muted Caroline?
Why'd you mute us?
Oh,
They
boy.
they were looking at me and causing shenanigans.
No, that was loud.
Shenanigans.
Sorry, we would
Oh.
never do that. I just wanted your attention a little bit.
And you got consequences.
I got muted. All right, so we've got a pretty specific question here. Favorite non-pokey and child-friendly evergreens for full sun in the 6-foot range.
So she wants a Gumby, not a pokey.
God.
Right?
Yes, exactly, Josh. Well,
Okay.
Josh answered the question, so we can go ahead and move on to the
Okay.
next one.
All right, so I guess we'll stay here for a minute. If you okay, first off, don't buy a holly. I mean,
Ever.
there are some soft leaf hollies, but a lot of them are pokey, so let's avoid that. Other than that, there's a lot of different leafy plants that aren't pokey and child friendly, and that get in the 6-foot range. Josh, you mentioned yews earlier; they'll get
Yews.
into that range. Like I said earlier, laurels. There's a lot of laurels that'll get upwards of 6 foot and even bigger if you let them, but they can be pruned. Some boxwoods will get 6 foot, not too many. American boxwood will still get 6 foot. That's a easy little shrub to grow. But there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of different conifers too. There's like gold mop cypress that'll get up 6 foot tall. People don't think it gets 6 foot tall, but it does. That's a cool little plant, nice and soft, not pokey.
It is
else?
just a side note. One of my favorite things to see that people have planted in their landscaping, grouped with stuff at, like, say, the end of their driveway, and then after, I don't know, 8 years, something, it takes over and eats all the other plants.
Yep.
And
Gold
gets
mop
Well,
cypress
huge.
specifically, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the most misused shrub there probably is, because we get them in little 1 gallons and we get them in 3 gallons, and they look like they're just going to be small and round and,
And
gold
they're
and just
adorable
stay
when they're in those
cute.
pots.
They don't stay cute. they
And
they get.
if they get 6 feet tall, they're going to be 6 or 8 feet wide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're wider at the base, working up to a point. Yeah,
They're going to eat some real estate.
they really will. So don't put them out in front of other shrubs. This is the backdrop shrub, or it's the focal point somewhat tree. It's a small growing tree, y'all. It actually takes a point. Like it looks like a little ornamental tree. So don't misuse gold mop cypress, but still use it. because it's money.
Tyler did send a great photo to one of our plant group text threads. It was actually a couple of years ago, I think, of
It was a while ago.
somebody had planted it right up on their house, and it had eaten the house. It was into the gutter and onto the front porch and just smashed against the house. It was huge. So
Joy, who works here, who's our perennial person, she's our perennial leader. She sent us
Happy birthday, Joy.
Yes, Joey's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday, Joy.
And she sent us a group thread picture, and it was 2 gold mop cypress planted in East Nashville years ago on either side of the person's porch. And they actually planted them in a good distance away, but they used them properly. And they were the 2 focal point trees as you enter the home. It was this like golden foliage tucked against a blue house right at the entrance point. Absolutely beautiful. But they were like 8 to 10 feet tall, literally 6 to 8 feet wide at the base, and just a really, really beautiful plant. But they used them properly, so don't misuse the gold mops.
perfect.
I don't know how we got on gold mops, but we're there, and we sell them. So come out and look at them.
We have a lot of plants. All right, what to plant in an area with morning to noon shade, but a blast of hot afternoon sun.
Okay, let's go ahead and just clear the air on this. An afternoon blast of full sun means full sun. So we need to know that. Don't even think shade at all. Just because it's getting, morning sun up until noon or 2 o'clock, whatever it is, I don't care. That is a full sun. In the afternoon here, it is intense. It gets hot. It is just blazing in the afternoon out here. So treat that as a full sun environment, and then you can go with multiple options of plants. The list is endless almost when it comes to full sun plants. But just know that's a full sun site. We need to get plants that'll live in that area, and then we'll just you come out here. We'll just talk with what you want. You want evergreen. You want flowering. You want grasses. You want a tree. Whatever it may be, we've got plenty of
a picture would be really helpful.
Pictures
for
are
you
great
guys.
for me to see the site.
And,
Definitely.
one of the things that and you touched on it on your answer there, Austin, is that how often people struggle with really perceiving the amount of light their area gets correctly. They'll look at an area and go, well, no, it's really shady. Well, yeah, but not all day long.
Not all day,
If it's getting that,
And not all year
sun,
long either, because the sun is going to track across the sky.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big key. Is that the August sun is way different from a January sun.
That's Mr. Wu, my Japanese maple. He gets sunburned every August. So.
Oh, poor buddy.
Yeah,
I did the same thing. I've got some heuchera planted out. Coral bells is a common name, and it's a fairly shade-loving foliage type plant. And I put it in an area that I thought had more shade than it did. But then in August, what happens? The sun stays up longer, and it goes a little bit further, and it starts touching that heuchera. And yeah, you ain't lying. It gets burnt a little bit as well. So it doesn't die.
No.
And my heuchera looks really, really good right now, actually. It's in this fall period, in the early spring period. It's really, really great. But if you mess up and you put some shade stuff in a little bit too much sun, you're going to see burn. You're not going to see death, typically, but you're going to see some burn. So just be okay with that. I pruned back the worst of the leaves and let the new stuff flush on the heuchera, and it looks really, really good right now. So
I love heuchera.
I know you do. Talk about it like every day.
Well,
I saw some heuchera yesterday to a guest that's got a really nice little shade area and a couple little mixes of it. It's pretty.
nice.
Really
Look
pretty.
at you go,
Hey,
selling
we might
plants.
quickly go back to our big board up front and just to kind of update on the weather. You'll see that we've got it's right here on us. So if you wonder,
Hold on, let me go look.
If you know,
Just kidding. I'm gonna stay
we've got
here.
debris. We've got debris.
it could be rain and some wind, so just be mindful of that. It looks like it's moving quite a bit faster than I originally thought. It's going to be here. It already is in the western edge of Davidson County, and it's going to be moving through. So probably by about 9 a.m. or 9:30, it's going to have moved all the way through. So just to be mindful of that, we're going to take that rain because we need it. So,
It's headed right to Athens, Georgia, too, David Bates.
yeah. Well, it'll be later afternoon before it gets there. Let me see if I can scoot that map up.
Let's find out what game.
I mean, it's all
wow.
the way to the coast, so it looks like everybody's going to get a shot of this.
While David is radaring, Tanya commented on the Bates Facebook page, how much is the consultation fee for you to look at my area and advise?
Well,
Well,
So,
isn't
Well.
this great? You don't have to pay us anything.
Bum, bum, bum.
Just bring your phone out here with some pictures, hook up with one of us, and let us show you some options. There is no fee for us to come out and give you some advice on what to plant. We don't make any commission out here. We don't care how much money you spend. We just want you to get some good plants for your area. That's what we care about. We truly care about plants, and that's what we love. We think about it constantly. So you just come out and see me. Come out and see me specifically. How about that?
Oh,
that
there
is
you go.
a great segue into our next little thing. We'll talk about it as where we are and why we're here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. And we do have this incredible array of plants. We have expertise. We've got, not just Austin and Caroline and Tyler. We've got a whole staff of other horticulturalists who are here to help you. We really have folks who have a great general overall knowledge, but we also have people who have a lot of very specific knowledge. Caroline, very much in the tropicals.
Yep.
We mentioned Joy earlier. If you're talking about natives or perennials, she knows it inside and out. So come out and pick our brains and get information from us and help plan your garden so that you can get the end result that you're looking for. There's no rules when it comes to gardening. The only thing is that you've got to try to put things in a spot where they have a reasonable chance of doing well. And that goes back to what Austin was speaking about just a bit ago, is that we need to collect information. We need to really understand what your light conditions are like, and then what your soil conditions are like, what direction your house faces. Armed with that information, we at Bates Nursery and Garden Center can help you get the right plant in the right place the first time, because that's the way we try to do it here at Bates Nursery since 1932. This is our 90th year, our Emerald anniversary. We invite you to come see us, and even on a rainy day like today, you can shop in the dry. We have almost half of our entire area is now under cover, so you don't have to be out in the rain. And soon it'll be even enclosed somewhat, so you won't be out in the chilly temperature so much. So we invite you to come out and see us and see this vast array of plants that we've got, be it trees, shrubs, ground covers, perennial, natives, ornamental grasses, you name it. We've got it at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. Don't forget to go by and see Caroline in the greenhouse up front, where we have the most extensive selection and array of tropicals, when we have more that come in every single week, usually a couple of shipments a week. So make sure you go by and see what we've got on hand, as well as all the companion things you want to go with it, all the decorative containers, and of course, we talked about it earlier, Proganics Eye for those indoor plants, and the other great Earth Mix products, such as Earth Mix Landscape, when you're going to do soil preparation for planting. So come out and see us. We're conveniently located 1 mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike. That's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, Nashville West, downtown Nashville. And as Josh can attest, it's worth the drive from anywhere, even Smyrna.
The entire Rutherford County area, folks.
Come on out and see us. We're open Monday through Saturday from 9 until 4, noon to 4 on Sunday. That will continue through November 20th. So we've got a few Sundays left here. Make sure you come on out and see us. Bates Nursery and Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932. And we appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that. We're going to get back to questions, because we got a bunch of them out there.
Yep.
And
Okay. Here we go. I do want to say one thing that has happened in my houseplant world that we were just talking about here at the nursery is I now have 2 fancy doors to go into the houseplant area
puertas.
From the annuals and shrubs and all the shade area. So I know I talked about my fancy doors last week. Now I've got 2 sets, and it's very exciting. All right, planted tiny.
She's gonna have an atrium back there.
Oh, I am.
A foyer, as it were.
We're trying to decide, yes, a foyer, a name for that little room that has 4 doors and is a little bit strange right now.
Yeah,
but
we're trying to figure out. We got to be creative and figure out something for that area.
I love that
It's
area.
a little weird. It's a little. We're gonna make it cool though.
It is like an atrium.
It is like an atrium. It's like an entrance way. It's like a portal.
It's
to
empty
the shade
right now.
shrubs.
So Ben and I went in there and
Yeah, I called
So-
it
A
an
little bit.
airlock
Yeah.
one time too.
Okay.
oh
It
yeah,
feels It's not that.
Feels that way.
Yeah.
It's great. Come look
It's
at
going to
it.
be the poinsettia corner or whatever.
The holiday corridor.
Holiday corridor.
Oh,
right.
Holiday corridor. I like that.
With the glitter
corridor,
attachment station?
If
gonna
it's
be
up
out
to
there?
Caroline, there
Okay.
will be glitter.
Well, there will be light, so I won't do loose glitter. But let's get to our questions. Planted tiny Yoshino cherry trees in summer of 2020. Haven't flowered yet. At what age and what sunlight do they need?
Well, that's a good question. You said they're tiny. I wonder what tiny actually is.
I hope tiny is 2-inch tall trees.
Maybe. I mean, on a tree that small, they don't typically flower that young. Now, we sell like 5-gallon material that'll drop in about, anywhere from 5 to 6 feet tall. And those plants do flower, so they're old enough at that point to flower. So I don't know how big it's starting to get. Sunlight is certainly a factor. Cherries definitely want a ton of, as much sunlight as you can give them pretty much. Full sun is totally good. But it may just be that it's small. It may just be young and it's not quite ready to flower yet. But hopefully maybe this spring you'll get some blooms. But in the gardening world, we must be patient. I know it's the hardest thing, but we must be patient. But make sure you give them a good amount of sunlight. And if it's living and it's clean and green, then you will get flowers. You just kind of have to wait.
I had a wisteria once that it took 9 years before the first bloom showed up.
Yeah, wisteria is a little different on that. There's a there's a lot of research done on wisteria. Wisteria is also another one that it can't have too much nitrogen. If it has too much nitrogen in the soil, it won't bloom for you. It just produces leaves, doesn't produce blooms. So, but it also, wisteria is kind of funny. It can be different, but once Yoshinos start blooming, they're going to bloom consistently every year. One of the showiest spring trees there
Sense of
is.
humor. It's a little funny.
Ba-dum-bum.
Good one. All right. Should my African violets flower year round? Is there a dormancy period? So one of the great things about African violets and why people tend to love them as houseplants is that they do almost continuously bloom all year if they are getting the right growing conditions. Now it will bloom out, and if you cut those spent blooms once they start to brown and look kind of sad and look like they want to be removed, I'll usually cut them off. That's going to promote new buds coming out. Now they can take like 4 to 6 weeks to open up, so they're not going to be continuously in bloom, open flowers all the time, but you should have buds kind of pushing once you take those old spent blooms back. And then also fertilizing. There's an African violet fertilizer that you can get to really promote those blooms. But like I said, as long as they're getting the right growing conditions, I keep mine inside year round. That's not one of the plants that I put out. And they like really, really bright indirect light. So they don't want to get hit with sunlight, but they need to be in a brightly lit kind of diffused lighting situation. And then also their watering can be a little bit weird. When you go to water it, you want to avoid getting water on the leaves. It's the temperature in the water that's going to cause leaf damage. It can look kind of cool on the leaves sometimes. It'll change the color and almost look like variegation on it, but it's just unhealthy for it. So I usually suggest bottom watering it with room temperature water. Yeah.
I bet they're doing better than they were back in the 60s and 70s. David, do you remember they used to sit on everybody's coffee table right next to the ashtrays?
Yes.
Do you remember that there were quite a bit of burns on a lot of the...
They don't do that well with smoke, I don't think. But what Caroline is saying, the bottom watering,
Right.
they are...
Little saucer.
They are frequently grown on these capillary mats.
Say what?
Where it is a mat that the water is absorbed into, and then it wicks that moisture up through the mat into the bottom of the pot. So that's the way that they are commercially grown, and those same techniques will work even at your house. So good
African
point.
violets are crazy.
Wicked.
One of the easiest plants to grow inside the home that flowers all the time. Like really, I mean, as long as, like you said, as long as it's got some good amount of light, I mean, they're going to keep blooming for you. There's not a ton of indoor plants that just bloom as much as that does. So
that's a great one. My mom, I grew up in a house that we moved out of when I was like 11. And the whole time I was living in that house, my mom had African violets. They were always in bloom. She didn't do anything to them. She neglects all of her plants, and they're amazing. I mean, she's great at growing plants. It is the way to do it. It's who I learned my plant love from. But again, she had these African violets everywhere. They were all healthy. They were always blooming. And then we moved into a new house. All of them died. And she's never been able to grow another one. So that just shows you that all climates and houses, like I was talking about earlier with the watering of houseplants in the winter question, all homes are different. So that African violet did great. And clearly she didn't change anything. She didn't start yelling at him and telling him nasty things and making him shrivel up and die. She was doing the exact same thing. She knew how to grow them, but it was just how that house was and what the air was like inside. She couldn't grow those and she had to switch to growing something else. Now she can grow maidenhair ferns and eucalyptus in the winter, and no one else can. It's
Those are
incredible.
wildly different.
Yes, they are, but they love that house and they love her. And those are two plants that really tend to die in the winter when you try to bring them in. So good job, Sherry Gant. You're really killing it in the houseplant game. All right, is it too late to plant in the season to plant new autumn joy
See,
sedum?
a true at-home viewer, and at what time of the year? Did you hear that? The way that the question? Yes.
The proper phrasing of
The
the
proper
question.
phrasing of the question. And yes, I was pointing. I was using the finger.
Are you pointing at me?
No, I was just pointing in general.
What are we pointing at? I'm going to read this question again.
Okay.
What's the point?
Is it too late in the season to plant
In the
new
season.
autumn joy sedum?
Ah,
Okay.
Is it still the season?
to be
It
jolly.
is still the season. Autumn Joy Sedum. Autumn Joy Sedum's a really good plant. Really, really good plant. But
I can vouch for that.
if you do plant it now, you might have seen some damage already on Autumn Joy Sedum. They tend to, once it gets cold, go a little bit mushy on you. So damage already on Autumn Joy Sedum. Oh,
That's
wow.
me.
That's-
I'm trying to turn the ding dings off because my
You get muted, Josh.
Oh,
Just for a second.
Anyway, back to the question. No, it is not too late to plant sedum. What the thing is you might be planting like a pot of dirt. You're not going to see a lot of foliage atop right now, and we might still have some that have some foliage atop. But for the most part, you're planting a perennial plant that's just got roots down below. Totally fine to do that. It's actually recommended by me, actually. That way you plant it now, and that way you can enjoy it in the spring and then when it blooms in the summer. So really good plant
It's
to
the
grow,
most
and certainly plant it.
It's the most bulletproof perennial you can grow.
Pretty much.
The only thing that'll kill it is keeping it too wet.
Definitely.
If you can stick it in a pot and water it one time and forget about it.
Yeah, you're right.
I've got a couple of containers that's been the approach for more than a decade, maybe 2 decades. You don't have to do anything to them.
Nope.
Just leave them be.
just leave them be. We've been talking, we've been getting a lot of questions like this. And we all like to talk about plants constantly here at work and outside of work. But we were talking about planting season, and Austin and I were talking about one of our favorite customers that comes in quite often here at the nursery that used to have a landscaping business up in Kentucky. And she was talking about how she did a huge install. I mean, it was decades ago, and it was snowing outside. They planted in like a couple inches of snow. They did the whole landscaping, installed all the plants, and she was like, that was the best looking landscape she's done. They didn't lose any plants. So when people are like, is it too cold outside to plant my perennials, plant my shrubs? We were talking about how that's actually the best time. So that's when I like to do it, because I don't really have to water. I water one time and just let it go.
Yeah, and we were talking about how snow's first off such a good insulator of plants. I had a professor in college that used to live in Idaho, and he had a little bitty nursery, and he grew a lot of different like native perennials back in the day. And he told me on years when they did not get snow, he suffered so much more loss.
Josh.
I've got it muted.
On a tangent.
Keep it going, Austin.
All right, we're going. And he told
She's
me
home from Walmart,
in
so
Idaho,
it's okay.
if he didn't get a good amount of snowfall, he would lose a lot of different plants. On years that he got a lot of snowfall, he would have really good insulation atop of all of his plants, and he would have a lot better success in the spring of everything returning. So that install Caroline was talking about, I'm sure was great, because you get a lot of insulation with the snow, and then once the snow melts away, where does that water go? Down to the roots of the plant. So planting in snow is not the end of the world. I remember I worked at an organic farm, one of my first horticulture jobs, and I planted garlic little cloves in snow.
Wow.
The same way. So I was telling Caroline, it's a little annoying though. I mean, because the snow gets really dirty and muddy, and it's like not fun to plant necessarily in the snow, but it can certainly be done. And like she said, this question has been coming out a lot. When can I not plant anymore? That is not really a thing here. As long as the ground's not just frozen solid, you can plant. And the snow is no different. So plant away.
You remember the dirt doctor, David? Of course, you remember the dirt doctor. He used to swear by scattering grass seed before snow. Absolutely swear by it. Said it was the best
He
time.
would just swear in general, and grass seed was one of the things that came up with.
I'll say, I'll just say
Okay.
this because I totally forgot what I was talking. Oh, yeah. You might want to, when you plant perennials in the winter, because you're really on some of them not going
Alrighty.
to see that much foliage at all. You might see some brown sticks. So you might want to flag wherever you put these perennials if you are planting in the winter.
That's
because
a good point.
You will
Yes.
probably forget where you planted them. I've done that many a time, especially with hosta. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Like hosta is losta in the winter to me. So just be mindful of that.
Good point. That is
A great point. I've forgotten that I planted stuff and weeded it out of my bed for years before I realized I was pulling up a perennial I planted. But then it just took over, I think, because it was so stressed that I was trying to murder it for a couple years that it then said, I'm going to take over this whole bed. Here I go. All right, we got just a handful of questions left. We've got a eucalyptus question about losing leaves. My glacier ice eucalyptus is losing leaves. I water it per instructions. It's in the bathroom and getting plenty of sunlight. So like I mentioned earlier with my mom's eucalyptus, that she somehow is able to grow during the winter, it doesn't look great the whole winter. Eucalyptus really, really stresses coming inside. I've pretty much given up on trying to grow it inside just because you have to really make sure you have the exact right conditions. And they too tend to lose their leaves and they will start looking sad. It's a plant that is not going to look fantastic all winter long. They try to kind of go dormant. So our days are getting really, really shorter. And so if you've had that glacier ice eucalyptus for a while, if you bought it here at the nursery, chances are you've had it for about 3 months because that was the one time we got it in, was about 3 months ago. So if it's been doing great up until this point and it's starting to lose leaves, which is what you put in your question, that's pretty standard for a eucalyptus that's inside. It is going to go through a stress period and you will have a little bit of a battle trying to keep that eucalyptus alive through the winter. But it sounds like you have it in the right place. It needs lots and lots of sunlight, and then let the top couple inches of soil dry out before you water it. Make sure it's not sitting in water, but it's not sitting bone dry for too long. And then, just keep it going. It'll truck along through the winter. And then once it warms up, if you want to put it outside, it should reflush and be pretty happy. I had a eucalyptus that was about 7 feet tall that I grew outside 2 years ago. I brought it in, it was dead in 2 days. I mean, just all the leaves fell off and it was just one stick. And that will happen sometimes and it's still alive. It's just gone dormant. And you can bend it. As long as it bends, it's still got some life in it. But I tried to bend it and it just snapped in half and it was definitely dead. But that's kind of just a trial by error plant that you'll just have to learn what it needs for your environment.
Keep it away from the koalas. Too.
Yes, if you've got a pet koala, it's going to eat that. So,
Would you suggest a grow light, Caroline?
I mean, if you need to supplement light, yes, it needs a lot of light if you're not getting enough. But they do have it in a south-facing window, so that should be fine for it.
In a bathroom, though.
Right, but some bathrooms have large windows.
Well, I guess I'm poor.
Poor bud.
I have.
What are you talking about?
I
Right
have
over the
two
garden tub. They got
bathrooms
the 4x4. You got to have tempered glass
None
on it,
of
though.
my bathrooms have windows, so I'm not saying you're poor, Tyler, but they did say it's in front of a large window with lots of light. But yeah, with any plant, if you need a lot of light, you can always supplement with a grow light. They make grow light bulbs. There's so many options out there.
I bet the neighbors like that.
That big giant bathroom window,
Yeah.
or maybe not. All right,
I'll just say I have a glacier ice. I got one. It's literally just sitting on my stoop, on my back stoop.
Uh-oh.
It's fine.
yeah. So
It
that
looks
one,
great. And it's also a hardy eucalyptus. So if you want to try growing it outside, maybe plant it in the ground, though. Grow it.
yeah, a hardy-ish eucalyptus.
Hardy-ish.
I wouldn't plant it in the ground now.
David gives the sound of derision.
And it would have to be very
I'm going to
protected.
jump into fate.
Yes.
Let's go.
Tyler's doing it. I still have my glacier ice eucalyptus on my front porch where it's getting sun, but it's under a cover. But I will be bringing it in once temperatures start dropping really, really low. And I plan on, if it makes it through the winter, I'm going to plant it in ground in the spring.
Josh is raising his hand.
Hey,
A
Josh.
certain Renee wants to say, good morning. Here's a question. What may I do for lamb's ear to keep it healthy? It rots.
I think I'm the only person here at the nursery that loves lamb's ear.
I have a love-hate with lamb's ear.
I love it.
I love to feel it. It feels great. But as a plant goes, it gets yuck.
I guess. So where I have mine planted, it's a very dry spot. It's where I have yucca and prickly pear, and I planted them all in little, I spaced them, and over the last 5 years, they've all grown together, and it's amazing. So it's raised up. It was actually the first purchase I ever made here at the nursery. When I first bought my house, I got a truckload of Earth Mix Garden to fill this bed. So I prepped the bed, and I raised it a little bit. I put rocks around and filled it with Earth Mix. So it is up above like my yard level, and it's on the top of a slope, so it gets really good drainage. It stays really dry, and the lamb's ear I have growing, it rots out in a way. It doesn't really get gross, but the older leaves towards the bottom will get a little bit soggy, but over, I'd say like a week period, they get dry, and I'll just take my hand and rake them away. But mine stays green throughout the winter, and I love it so much.
I think a good thing to do with lamb's ear is just to give it a straight up huge cut. Like
I've never cut mine.
If it starts to get too wide on you though, and it dies out kind of in the middle, like what lamb's ear kind of does a little bit. If you see that and you're starting to see that, then in the early spring, go out there and literally just cut everything, take it away, let it restart. I just think lamb's ear just needs a good restart every like 2 or 3 seasons. Just, you know, let the width go back and get back tight and let it flush out tight. And I think that's the best way to grow lamb's ear. But
well, I'm a little bit opposite, but mine is up high. It's raised. It's got good drainage. I've never watered it, and it gets full sun all day, and it's close to my house. So my house is white. It's it's not right up against it, but it's probably like 2 feet from my south south side of the house. So it stays dry and hot right there. That's a great question. I love lamb's ear so much.
Well, did they make
obviously.
is there such a thing as sow's ear?
no.
No? Well, where do we get silk purses?
Someone the other day called it lamb's lettuce though.
I love lamb's lettuce.
That was cute.
That's adorable.
Oh, now I'm just
can
imagining
buy
the
a
bleeding
silk
plant.
purse, Josh.
Oh, you can?
Need one though.
I'd rather raise one. Yeah, you got to have a sow's ear to make a silk purse, right?
I'm not sure about that.
I guess so, but we do have one more question.
Okay.
Best time to prune lavender. Go.
Pruning
3:30.
lavender.
Yep.
Yeah, 3:30.
Bum.
Early in the spring, I think would probably be my recommendation on that. Lavender's kind of different because it's kind of a small little growing perennial, and sometimes it stays evergreen, sometimes it doesn't. You kind of have to watch the winter here and see how much dieback you have, because sometimes, and I say sometimes, a lot of time you have some dieback on lavender. So early in the spring, before it flushes out, you can go in there and just kind of prune out what looks rough, or if you need to shorten a little bit. Some people have great luck with lavender, and when lavender is good, lavender is great. Let's be honest. But over the wintertime here, we can stay a little wet for lavender. We can get a little chilly. So if you see any dieback, or you see a lot of dieback on top, I've in the past just literally clear cut the whole thing at the dirt and then watch it regrow from the roots. So if you want to do that, you can do that as well. So there you go. Oh, lavender.
My lavender looks really good right now. I was surprised when I was cleaning up my beds the other day. I said, wow, Caroline, you're doing great.
What else did you talk about with yourself?
Everything. I talked about my camellia. I gasped out loud by myself when I saw that first bloom that had opened on my Yuletide that we talked about earlier. And I love it. And it's full of buds, and it's going to be amazing. It's a tiny little shrub right now. I start small with all of my plants because I like to really watch them grow. But look, we wrapped it all the way back around to the beginning of the segment.
With camellia.
Y'all
get a camellia. Y'all grow some camellia. They're worth growing.
I've got 3.
They really are.
I need one more
And
so I can beat Austin.
It's also wrap it back around to where the rain is, and if you're contemplating on whether you want to come out or not,
Doesn't matter.
I ask that you come on out
Yeah.
and check out our new structure, and you'll be able to shop in the dry. This rain is not going to last all that long. It'll give you a nice opportunity to see all the things we have inside. It includes Caroline's area where the tropicals all reside, and
The
her new
atrium.
little area yet to be named. They're trying to figure out what to do with
Star
it.
chamber.
All
The
into
Bates
the
Trium?
our shade area.
Oh, it's the Batrium. We figured out a name.
Yes.
Sorry, that was exciting.
David wants to talk about the weather.
So anyway, I'm just saying, it's right here on us. Rain right down 65 there, you'll see is right up to it. So just be careful as you go out and about this morning. It's not going to be an all-day event. It'll be over by later in the morning. and we're going to receive some much needed rainfall. So it's a good thing. There is still a wind advisory out that likely will wane as the rain passes
In Spain?
and well, wherever it is. So
The wane.
anyway, come on out and see
rain.
us, and if you see
Mainly
things
in
laying
Spain.
over or lying over on the ground, well, that's because the wind's been blowing. So
And don't pick them up. Just leave them down.
leave
We'll
'em
get
up.
them
yeah,
later.
just leave them down, and we'll get them up
Yeah.
before the end of the day, and then we'll irrigate as
Alrighty.
needed. So.
All righty, folks. Music means that we're done with this edition. I want to apologize for all the ding-dings that were going on. Evidently, the kitty cat has discovered the fish bowl or the fish tank, and I'm sure video will be coming. I may post that up on the At Home Show just so I can have proof there. But for everybody here at the Greenwood Studio, we do appreciate your participation. Hey, we're going to be here next Saturday morning as well, so set the clock, set the reminder.
Yeah, tune in.
Fall back. We won't start at 7 next week. It'll still be 8 o'clock, but we'll be here for you. Hey, thanks. We'll see you next week.